Book 18, Highgod, Chapter 25, The Abyssal Fruit Appears. Bailey and his brother, Linley, and his brother, the two groups walked in a line, striding forward. However, the four of them didn't advance at too high a speed, and on the way over, they continued to vigilantly watch the surrounding areas. "Boss, tell me, what do you think that power-increasing abyssal fruit looks like?" BB's eyes were filled with curiosity as he sent mentally. Linley looked at the surroundings as well. Abyssal fruit, it might look like an ordinary fruit. Something feels weird. Linley sniffed the air, and as he did, he felt a very unusual odor waft by, entering his body. His mind instantly grew clear, and the bewildering effects of the fog, which had always been present, dissolved away greatly as well. "Boss, the gray fog is much fainter up ahead," BB said hurriedly. Linley had a thought. "It seems we are almost there. Let's go." He strode forward hurriedly, and Bailey and his brother did the same. Linley advanced by roughly another 100 or so meters, then discovered that the fog had completely dissipated. "What sort of tree is that?" Linley stared towards the center of the empty area up ahead, and saw that an extremely large and flourishing dwarf tree was present. The main trunk of the dwarf tree was large enough to need two people holding hands to wrap their arms around it, and was less than 30 meters tall. However, the tree had 10 million branches, each of which was at least 100 or 200 meters long. These extremely long branches also had many more twigs extending from them. This resulted, in this single large dwarf tree to take up an area with a diameter of hundreds of meters. "Boss, look, what's that?" BB called out in surprise. Linley's pupils contracted. At the crown of that dwarf tree, on a particularly large branch, within the leaves, there was a fruit that was slightly larger than the size of a fist. This fruit was almost completely spherical, with a violet skin that was crystalline and translucent, swirling with brilliant light, dazzling to behold. At the same time, it continued to faintly emanate that hazy fog. What a refreshing feeling! Linley took a deep breath, and his mind felt all the clearer, and his soul felt very comfortable as well. Is this the abyssal fruit? Linley couldn't help but glance at the nearby Bailey and his brother. Bailey's eyes were shining as he stared at the abyssal fruit, but he didn't charge forward. Instead, he said in a clear voice, "Linley, that's the abyssal fruit. However, I must warn you, abyssal fruit isn't so easily harvested. The spirit snake which guards the abyssal fruit has yet to appear." Having already undergone the abyssal fruit harvesting process countless years ago, Bailey clearly knew how dangerous it was. Linley knew as well that although it looked as though the abyssal fruit was simply placed there, if he were to rashly charge forward, he would undoubtedly suffer for it. "Boss, I'll go." BB very confidently prepared to charge forward. "BB, don't be rash," Linley barked. BB looked towards him. "Just watch for now." Linley stared appraisingly at his surroundings. Suddenly, rustle, the green leaves on the branches of the tree with the abyssal fruit, as though stirred by the wind, began to tremble. That sound instantly disrupted the surrounding, quiet calm. At the same time, the leaves which were spread out over that space of hundreds of meters all began to glow with a green energy. And slowly, one green snake after another, each the size of a palm, began to form atop the green leaves. So many! BB sucked in a breath of cold air. Although he didn't fear the green snakes, upon seeing so many of them, he still felt his scalp crawl. Linley couldn't help but narrow his eyes. With but a single sweep, he saw thousands on thousands of green snakes. The countless green snakes were visible on virtually every single part of the tree. "And that's just the opening course," Bailey said coldly. "Spirit snake, you might as well come out." Bailey's voice rang out. "What, do you want me to come over for you to ambush?" Linley and BB were stunned. "Spirit snake?" Could it be that these green snakes weren't the spirit snake? Haha, I didn't expect that you would be aware of my existence. A clear, evil sound rang out from amidst the branches. This is absolutely too intriguing. I wanted to play with you a bit more first. For me to reveal myself now, spoils the surprise. As the voice continued to ring out, it slowly began to reveal its true form atop the abyssal fruit tree. Linley, BB, and Blown couldn't help but feel startled. A large green snake that was nearly 10 meters long and as thick as an arm suddenly, slowly emerged from a branch of the tree. This large snake coiled around the tree trunk, its head raised and its cold, insidious eyes flashing with a violet, serpentine light as it stared at the distant Linley, Bailey, and the other two. The serpent's violet gaze seemed to stab at them. Linley and BB couldn't help but narrow their eyes, not willing to stare directly into the green snake's gaze. Linley, what we need to do is, while being attacked by countless green snakes, and also being blocked by the spirit snake, acquire the abyssal fruit. Bailey said calmly. Let me warn you of one thing, the spirit snake is capable of controlling the abyssal fruit tree to attack and constrict you. Alright, whoever gets the abyssal fruit is whoever it will belong to. After speaking, Bailey's entire body slowly began to emanate an earthen yellow aura. Divine earth power. Linley frowned. BB excitedly licked his lips. Boss, watch me get that abyssal fruit. I have no fear of those little green snakes. The abyssal fruit will definitely be mine. That Godspark dagger appeared in BB's hands, and he gave Bailey a careful look as well. Bailey was clearly building up his power. Arg. With a sudden, explosive shout, the earthen yellow aura on Bailey's body suddenly coalesced around his right leg. Bailey lifted up his right leg, and then smashed down in a vicious, straight line towards the ground. Boom! The entire earth roared with a terrifying explosive sound as an earthen yellow light emanated outwards from his feet through the earth. The strange thing was, the ground beneath Bailey's feet wasn't damaged at all. An explosive burst of the throbbing pulse of the world. Linley could guess at what profound mysteries were contained within this attack, but for now, Linley himself wasn't capable of it. Linley immediately looked towards the tree. Bang! 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 In the ground beneath the giant tree, one explosive rumbling sound after another rang out, and a large hole appeared in the rocky mountain terrain as shattered rocks flew everywhere. The smaller branches of the abyssal fruit tree were also smashed and flattened and sent flying, as many green serpents hurriedly dodged as well. Even the main trunk of the abyssal tree trembled, but the main trunk and the larger branches weren't damaged much. Clearly, they were very sturdy, only the smaller branches and leaves were damaged. Chaos. The shattered small branches and many leaves were flying everywhere, causing the abyssal fruit tree to turn into a picture of chaos. Let's go. Linley's eyes lit up, and he shot forward like an arrow from a bow. This is the moment. BB simultaneously charged out as well. But Bailey had reacted slightly faster than even BB and Linley. He charged forward at high speed, his body once more beginning to emanate with that earthen yellow aura which was constantly emanating ripples. Bailey's gaze was firm, and in his hands, a pitch-black warblade appeared. Ha! An evil laugh rang out from the tree. Instantly. Swish! 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 Countless green snakes rained down from the green leaves of the tree like raindrops in a storm. The countless green snakes simultaneously attacked Linley, BB, and Bailey. As for the violet-haired youth, Blown, he stood far away and didn't charge forward. Linley, seeing so many green snakes fill the skies and charge towards him, was forced to go all out as well. An earthen yellow light suddenly emanated from Linley's body as well, instantly encapsulating both himself and BB and forming into a hemisphere that was 15 meters across in diameter. When those green snakes, moving like arrows, fell into the blackstone space, their speed suddenly dropped and they became much slower. Under the command of the spirit snake, these green snakes were aware of the repulsive power of the Blackstone space. But if they didn't enter the Blackstone space, they wouldn't be able to harm Linley at all. Thus, they had no choice but to charge in. "Haha, come bite me, all of you come bite me." BB bellowed loudly as he charged in front of Linley, where a large number of green snakes were gathered and charging. At the same time, BB's body transformed into dozens of figures, and with banging sounds, his dagger began stabbing into the bodies of the snakes, while his palm began to crush their bodies. These sounds rang out unabated. With BB up in front, the pressure on Linley was greatly reduced. The dispersed green snakes began to cluster around them from all sides. Linley calmly began to brandish about Mirage, filling it with wind-type elemental essence and causing it to transform into countless sword blurs, filling the surrounding space. The drifting, agile movements of the sword blurs were so fast as to seem devilish, and even space itself seemed to constrict and tighten around those green snakes. Hiss! The green snakes, their speed greatly lessened within the Blackstone space. When faced with Mirage, a dense cluster of sounds could be heard as one snake after another was instantly ground apart by those countless sword blurs and transformed into pulp. Last time, Linley didn't have experience, but this time, Linley was prepared in advance, and so his execution of this technique became all the more relaxed. The vast majority of the 1,000+ tightly clustered snakes which flew towards Linley were all struck. However, there were still 3 which were only slightly wounded and thus fearlessly charged towards Linley, wanting to bite him. Linley just instantly changed the direction of the gravity. Blackstone space, the gravity suddenly changed to go downwards. The sudden change in the direction of the gravity caused the 3 green snakes to be caught off guard and sink downwards, not able to bite Linley at all. Swish! 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 Those 3 fast sword blows cleaved down upon the green snakes which had sank down to the ground, instantly killing them. Sometimes, suddenly changing the direction of gravity was an extremely effective tactic. That Bailey, Linley glanced at him out of the corner of his eyes, and couldn't help but feel startled. The layer of earthen yellow light on Bailey's body was constantly trembling. When the many green snakes attacked, Bailey just let them strike at him, but as soon as they entered the range of that earthen yellow light, their bodies would begin to tremble and then, moments later, with a bang completely crumble into pulp. The throbbing pulse of the world, the never-stopping vitality, as well as the essence of the earth. With a single glance, Linley realized which 3 profound mysteries were being used by Bailey. Different fusions of profound mysteries had different results. What Linley didn't know was that this was the best technique Bailey had come up with, after countless years of painstaking pondering, for dealing with these green snakes. He had spent nearly 100 million years coming up with this technique. But in terms of flying speed, BB, who didn't have to pay the green snakes any mind at all, was a bit faster than even Bailey. BB moved like lightning, scurrying to the side of the tree trunk. "Haha, the abyssal fruit is mine!" BB called out jubilantly as he snatched towards the abyssal fruit. Hiss! A strange sound entered BB's mind, and BB couldn't help but feel his head grow dizzy. Suddenly, the giant head of the large green snake suddenly emerged from next to BB. It opened its mouth wide and bit downwards towards BB. The emergence of the snake head happened as fast as lightning, and BB, his head dizzy, wasn't able to react in time. The giant green snake landed a vicious bite against his head, and the giant green snake bit down with full force. Crunch! BB! Linley was shocked. F***ck off! BB bellowed, furiously shaking it off and escaping from that giant maw. But that giant green snake stared towards BB in shock. A black, illusory object fell out from within the mouth of the giant green snake. Linley glanced at it, and saw that, amazingly enough, it was a shattered poisonous fang. When the green snake bit BB, it broke its tooth. Linley couldn't help but feel speechless. While the giant green snake was dealing with BB, Bailey scurried towards the abyssal fruit tree. But just as Bailey was about to seize the abyssal fruit, swoosh! The abyssal fruit tree violently twisted, flashing past and dodging Bailey's snatch while many branches suddenly swept towards Bailey, clutching at him like countless arms. Bailey's face couldn't help but change. Big brother. The violet-haired blown, watching this from afar, couldn't help but feel shocked. Bailey instantly roared angrily, using full force with the pitch-black warblade in his hands. Instantly, a booming sound rang out, and spatial ripples and cracks were given birth to as the warblade chopped towards the surrounding, coiling tree branches. Right at this moment. Swoosh! Linley also charged towards the abyssal fruit. Bastard! BB, bellowing, charged forward once more as well. Ray-a-a-a-or. The giant green snake angrily opened its maw, emitting a thick black fog towards Linley and BB, and the poisonous black fog instantly trapped Linley and BB once more within it. Book 18, Highgod, Chapter 26, Choice. The black fog instantly invaded Linley's sea of consciousness, and even began to invade and corrode the repaired part of the flaw. The level of the current repair work was something which Linley had accomplished after spending nearly 200 years after becoming a Highgod. If it was broken, then the efforts of 2 centuries would have all been for naught. Linley's spiritual energy instantly surged out in waves against the black mist. His spiritual energy, glowing with that azure light, moved as fast as lightning, constantly clashing against the poisonous black fog and extinguishing it. Boss, this big snake is rather tough to deal with. BB sent mentally. Ray-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-or. The large green snake's tail swung about angrily, transforming into multiple blurs which struck towards Linley and BB. Linley's gaze turned cold. Swish! Linley's draconic tail swung out viciously as well, intersecting with the snake's tail. With a whap sound, Linley couldn't help but be knocked back by a few dozen meters, while the giant green snake once more coiled itself around a branch of the abyssal fruit tree. This large snake's skin really is tough. Linley was secretly surprised. And quite slippery. After Linley was sent flying backwards, BB charged straight towards the abyssal fruit. The giant green snake naturally struck out with its tail again, which twirled about like a tornado, causing the nearby space to twist and distort as it lashed out towards BB. BB just gave a sinister grin, and the Godspark dagger suddenly appeared in his hands. He gave the oncoming serpentine tail a vicious swipe. Slash! The dagger, when meeting the serpentine skin, couldn't help but slip aside. It only left behind a fairly deep white impression, and only managed to crack 3 of the thin scales. Hey! BB was surprised, and at the same time he also sent mentally, boss, this big snake's body is much stronger than those of the little green snakes, and it is also quite slippery. Not even my Godspark weapon was able to break through it at one blow. Right, boss, you hurry up and get the abyssal fruit, and let me tie down this big snake. He's not able to do anything to me. Punk, I'm going to make you die. The giant green snake, seeing that 3 of its serpentine scales had been cracked, was instantly enraged. Bellowing, it once more coiled towards BB. Its venomous fangs were sharp, but they weren't that tough. In terms of toughness, its skin was the toughest. Over the course of countless years, nobody had ever been able to leave behind any wounds on its body. Swoosh! Linley was very confident in BB, and so he charged straight for the abyssal fruit. Rumble! BB was surprised. As soon as the giant green snake touched BB, it instantly began to wrap around and constrict BB, as though wanting to crush him to death. Hey, you are pretty strong. But if you want to crush me to death with this bit of strength, keep dreaming. BB raised his head proudly, staring directly at the giant green snake's head, not afraid at all. The giant green snake was exerting pressure with every part of its body as it sought to crush BB to death. Constriction was one of its innate talents. It was very easy for it to rely on its body to constrict Highgods to death. Even Highgod artifacts, when gripped and ground down upon by its body, would begin to twist and distort. But today, it discovered, that the youth it was currently constricting was like an incomparably tough and resilient chunk of metal. Hey, use more strength. BB chortled. BB was happy to be keeping the giant green snake occupied, and he also paid attention to Linley's situation. BB was suddenly startled. When Linley drew near the abyssal fruit, many soft, willow-like branches suddenly coiled towards Linley. Irritated, Linley lashed out with Mirage, filling it with divine earth power and raising its attack power to the limit. With a gentle sound, tears in space began to appear. Slash. Mirage chopped down upon one of the branches. This branch was as thick as a person's thighs, but when Linley's Mirage Godspark sword chopped down, it was only able to cut to the center of the branch and no further. Linley suddenly had the feeling, that when the branch of the abyssal fruit tree and Mirage collided, a surge of powerful, rippling force was transmitted through. It was attacking his mind. Rumble, Linley's mind couldn't help but go momentarily dizzy, but he was still able to endure the attack. At this moment, many other branches swung towards him as well. Retreat. Linley hurriedly pulled his sword out, retreating at high speed. At the same time, an earthen yellow aura emerged from his body, immediately forming into his blackstone space. The powerful repulsive force immediately activated against those branches. Although the branches now moved much more slowly, they still came wrapping around towards him from every direction. Linley could only choose to run even farther away. Linley was in a tough situation, but it wasn't easy for Bailey either. He, too, was unable to do anything against the abyssal fruit tree. Bailey, you said the spirit snake controls the abyssal fruit tree? Then how is it that the tree is capable of using spiritual attacks? Linley couldn't help but bark. He had already retreated 100 meters, while Bailey had also retreated to a distance of 100 meters. Shaking his head, Bailey replied, back then, when I first encountered the abyssal fruit tree, there were simply too many green snakes, so I couldn't draw near at all. I didn't know the abyssal fruit tree was capable of spiritual attacks. Now, it seems, the abyssal fruit tree itself possesses sentience. Linley suddenly realized what the tree and snake the red-haired beauty was referring to. The snake should be the sort of large snake, while the tree should be this abyssal fruit tree. Linley was now aware of the power of this abyssal fruit tree. A single branch was actually able to endure his full-force sword blow. Despite using a Godspark sword, he was only able to chop to the center of the branch. It already repaired the damage. Linley discovered to his surprise that the damage he had done by chopping down against the branch was already repaired. This abyssal fruit tree is just like normal deities, its body can easily repair itself when damaged. Linley felt a headache oncoming. Haha, nothing left? Then it's my turn. BB's voice suddenly rang out. Linley couldn't help but to turn and look. BB was currently still being constricted by the giant green snake, which seemed to want to crush BB. But suddenly, screech! With an ear-piercing, savage sound ringing out, BB opened his mouth, while at the same time, around his body an enormous illusion of a god-eater rat appeared, which stared coldly at the giant green snake. The giant green snake was stunned. It couldn't help but have a bad feeling. A cold look flashed through BB's eyes. A miserable scream rang out, and from the head of the giant green snake, a black divine spark flew out, entering BB's mouth. As for the giant green snake, it fell down lifelessly, dead. Innate divine ability, God-Eater. In the same instant of the giant green snake's death, the surviving little green snakes which had remained on the leaves of the abyssal fruit tree all transformed into green energy, then disappeared from the world. They, too, had died. Oh! Linley suddenly understood. Those little green snakes should have been a part of the giant green snake. Or perhaps their lives were linked to the giant green snake's soul. Now that the spirit snake was dead, the little snakes perished as well. How dare you be arrogant in front of me? Bibi snorted. The distant Bailey and Blown both stared towards Bibi in disbelief. Just now, they had both seen Bibi use the God-Eater divine ability. This innate divine ability didn't belong to any sort of law or edict. It surpassed them, and once it was used, Bailey and Blown were completely stunned. In the face of this technique, what could they do against it? This technique acted directly against one's divine spark. Most likely, even if you had incredibly deep understandings of the laws, you still wouldn't have any chance to use your techniques. The abyssal fruit is mine. Bibi once more charged towards the abyssal fruit tree. Rustle, rustle, the abyssal fruit tree seemed to have gone mad, and many of its branches began to swing about, encircling and wrapping towards Bibi. Linley, seeing the situation, activated his blackstone space with a thought, instantly spreading it out to a circumference of hundreds of meters. Gravity, downwards. Those branches couldn't help but drop downwards, but they all strove to rise up and go snatch Bibi. Swish. Linley charged forward as well. Swoosh. Bailey didn't hesitate either, hurriedly seizing the chance to charge forward. The abyssal fruit tree's movements were indeed now much slower, and it found it hard to catch Bibi and Linley, but, the tree branches didn't try to seize Linley. Many of the branches actually easily began to twist and distort, completely wrapping up the abyssal fruit. Linley, Bibi, and Bailey were stupefied. Now that the abyssal fruit was wrapped up in branches, how would they acquire it? Last time, the abyssal fruit tree just casually blocked for a time. It wasn't as savage as this. Bailey said uncomprehendingly. Linley and Bibi floated in the air, staring at the abyssal fruit tree. Boss, what should we do? Bibi asked. This is rather tricky. Linley frowned, and then immediately launched Mirage against the abyssal fruit tree. Mirage was already translucent, and as the sword ripples lashed out, one tear in space after another appeared. Mirage struck at the trunks multiple times, but each sword blow found it hard to break through. Hundreds of consecutive blows. But after each blow, the branches immediately healed. Whoosh! Suddenly, many branches exploded forward, attacking the nearby Linley. Linley's face changed, and the direction of his blackstone space suddenly changed to be repulsive. The branches couldn't help but slow down, and Linley flew back, retreating. Bibi, these branches are simply too tough, and there are too many of them. As soon as I launch one blow with my sword, the branch has already healed the damage before my second blow arrives. And it is also capable of a powerful soul attack. I'm not afraid of a blow from a single branch, but if hundreds of them strike me with the great power they possess, or if they constrict me, it'll be even tougher to deal with than the constriction of that giant green snake. Linley sent mentally. Looks like there's only one option. Bibi flew forwards. Suddenly, the illusion of a God-Eater rat that was tens of meters tall appeared before Bibi. That powerful aura caused Blown and Bailey to both feel shock in their hearts, and a unique energy was applied to the abyssal fruit tree. Yet again. After using it this second time, Bibi will need some rest. Linley couldn't help but say to himself. Linley was very confident in Bibi, but the result caused Linley to feel astonished. How is that possible? No divine spark flew out from the abyssal fruit tree, and it wasn't damaged at all. As for Bibi, he landed back on the ground, looking puzzled. Boss, I can't sense its divine spark. Can't sense it? Linley was stunned. This abyssal fruit tree has no divine spark. Bibi was completely certain. If that's the case, then this will be troublesome. This abyssal fruit tree, no wonder it is capable of nurturing and creating a holy object such as the abyssal fruit. It is indeed hard to deal with. Linley frowned. But from what Bailey said, last time the abyssal fruit appeared, the abyssal fruit tree didn't prove to be such an obstacle. It just went through the motions of defending before allowing someone to harvest the fruit. Why is it that this time? Right at this moment. Swoosh. Bailey transformed into a blur, once more charging towards the abyssal fruit tree. Linley and BB were in no rush, allowing Bailey to go make the attempt. There's no way he'll be able to deal with the abyssal fruit tree, Linley said to himself. He didn't believe that Bailey had any hope. Whoosh. Those protective branches surrounding the abyssal fruit suddenly opened up, while at the same time reached out towards Bailey in an embrace, and Bailey suddenly struck hard against a nearby branch, relying on the counter force to propel himself forward towards the abyssal fruit. As for those surrounding branches, their speed seemed to have been lowered significantly. Bailey managed to just barely escape the embrace of those branches, and immediately plucked the translucent, crystalline abyssal fruit. It is mine. Bailey was wildly overjoyed. At the same time, without hesitating at all, Bailey chomped down, swallowing it into his stomach in a matter of seconds. Linley and BB seemed to have been thunderstruck. What's going on? BB didn't dare to believe it. Why didn't the abyssal fruit tree try to block it? Linley couldn't understand it either. Given how many branches the abyssal fruit tree had, it was completely capable of blocking Bailey. Even if it didn't block him, it could do the same thing it had done to Linley and BB, just wrap up the abyssal fruit tree. Bailey naturally wouldn't be able to acquire it. But the abyssal fruit tree had voluntarily opened its branches, just blocking him slightly. It seems as though the abyssal fruit tree was partial towards Bailey, Linley said, not understanding. Russell, suddenly, the entire abyssal fruit tree began to tremble. The main trunk of the abyssal fruit tree sank downwards into the ground, and then its many branches sank into the ground as well. It also pulled the corpse of the giant green snake into the ground. In but the amount of time necessary for a few breaths, the abyssal fruit tree had completely gone underground. The abyssal fruit tree had departed. Ha ha, sudden, excited laughter rang out. Bailey once more opened his eyes. Linley had the feeling as though Bailey's very aura had changed. Thank you, you too. Bailey looked towards Linley and BB, while Blown excitedly ran over as well. Big brother, you succeeded. Blown knew exactly how much suffering his elder brother had endured for the sake of this abyssal fruit. The first time he entered the abyssal mountain, although he had seen it, he hadn't acquired it. And then, he had waited resolutely while training, preparing for the next time. Countless years of loneliness. He had successfully endured and also succeeded. Gentlemen, last time, the abyssal fruit tree just did some cursory blocks as well. This time, it clearly acted with intent against you two. Bailey laughed as he looked at Linley and BB. I think, it should be because BB killed that spirit snake. Spirit snake. Linley and BB both felt shock in their hearts. This spirit snake and the abyssal fruit tree were always together. After countless years, they definitely must have formed an extremely strong emotional bond. Tell me, how could the abyssal fruit tree possibly be willing to give you the abyssal fruit which it nurtured? Bailey said, laughing. Book 18, Highgod, Chapter 27, Sovereign's Emissary. Because they had killed the spirit snake, the abyssal fruit tree felt enmity towards them. Linley and BB couldn't help but look at each other, not knowing what to say. Ha ha. Bailey laughed as he spoke. But of course, that's just my deduction. Otherwise, I have no other explanation for why the abyssal fruit tree would act in such a manner towards you two, while differently towards me. But no matter what, this matter is at an end, and I need to thank both of you for me being able to acquire the abyssal fruit. Linley laughed calmly. Linley still felt a hint of goodwill towards Bailey. No matter what, Bailey had at least informed him of the appearance of the abyssal fruit. If Bailey didn't want for Linley to know, he didn't have to tell Linley at all. In addition, Bailey had toiled for countless millions of years for the sake of this abyssal fruit. Such perseverance made him worthy of acquiring this most precious of treasures, the abyssal fruit. Wasn't it said that after acquiring the abyssal fruit, one would be received by the sovereign and become a sovereign's emissary? BB muttered. So where's the sovereign? Linley's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly swept the surrounding area with his gaze. If the sovereign appeared, his goal would be accomplished. Whoosh! Because of the departure of the abyssal fruit tree, the grey fog once more filled this region. Suddenly, not too far away, a humanoid figure suddenly appeared, causing Linley and BB's eyes to light up. Could it be that the sovereign has come? Linley and BB were both very eager. In but an instant, that figure appeared before them. The person was very skinny but very tall, and he had a head of unbound, long silver hair. His eyes swept past Linley's group like the eyes of a hawk, finally halting on Bailey's body. Laughing calmly, he said, "Bailey, congratulations on acquiring the abyssal fruit. Come with me now to the sovereign's palace and await the sovereign's summons." "It's you." A look of astonishment appeared on Bailey's face. "Arthur's ASESI. Right." The silver-haired man laughed calmly. "It's been so many years, but you still remember me. You've remained at the Abyssal Mountain all these years. I know all these things. I, too, was surprised that you actually managed to endure all these years of loneliness and the countless years of waiting. I have to say, I admire you." Bailey began to laugh loudly. "That year, when we entered the Abyssal Mountain together, I swore an oath as we entered. That I, Bailey, would either die in the Abyssal Mountain or emerge as the sovereign's emissary." Linley and BB now completely understood. So this person wasn't a sovereign, rather, it was the person who had acquired the abyssal fruit on Bailey's first trip to the Abyssal Mountain. So this person is a sovereign's emissary. Linley had a thought. Since he lives at the Abyssal Mountain, his relationship to the sovereign should be fairly close. Perhaps through him. The goal of Linley's trip to Abyssal Mountain was to meet the sovereign. "Big brother, congratulations." The violet-haired youth, Blown said with wholehearted sincerity. Bailey beamed towards his little brother as well. "Bailey, let's go. Come with me to the sovereign's palace." Arthur's urged. "Arthur's?" Bailey said. "How about this? Let me send my little brother out of the grey fog region, and then I'll accompany you. No rush." Arthur's laughed calmly. "Come with me, and bring your little brother as well. He can first wait at the border region between the grey fog region and the violet fog region. He'll just wait there a day or so. After you see the sovereign and have the arrangements made for you, you can send your little brother away at that point. Your little brother is in no particular rush, right? Big brother, it's just a day." Blown said very excitedly. "The next time we meet, you'll be a sovereign's emissary. Actually, the power your big brother now wields after having eaten the abyssal fruit is already comparable to that of ordinary sovereign's emissaries." Arthur said calmly. "However, the reason why your big brother is so powerful is because of the abyssal fruit. After having acquired the abyssal fruit, he has already, naturally become the emissary of the Netherworld sovereign." Bailey laughed and nodded. "Then Arthur's, let's go." "Wait a moment." Only now did Linley speak. Arthur's and Bailey both looked over, and Bailey hurriedly introduced, "Arthur's, this is Linley, who came alongside me. The two of them are reputedly from the infernal realm, and also exceedingly powerful. The two of them, even without abyssal fruit, are already quite powerful." Arthur's had a calm look on his face, and he said unhurriedly, "I know exactly what happened in that grand battle. Linley, you are an expert of the Four Divine Beasts clan, and yet you came to the Netherworld for this abyssal fruit? I rather don't believe it. What other business do you have?" Linley's dragon-formed appearance already caused quite a few experts to easily guess his status. Linley's heart clenched. This Arthurs seemed to have a rather poor attitude towards him. Mr. Arthurs, Linley said hurriedly. It is indeed true that the purpose of my visit to the Abyssal Mountain was not for the sake of the Abyssal Fruit. I have an important matter which I wish to ask the Netherworld Sovereign regarding. I would like to ask for your help, to lead me forward to see the Sovereign. I have something extremely important to discuss. Linley's attitude, appearance, and manner of speech all gave voice to his sincerity. Arthurs. Bailey looked towards Arthurs. Clearly, he too wished for Arthurs to help. Arthurs just let out a calm laugh, then said casually, "You've come an unimaginable distance from the infernal realm to the Netherworld, and charged into the Abyssal Mountain without any care for your own life. To do this, of course I know that you must have an important matter to discuss with the Sovereign. However, over the countless plains, there are also many people who wish to see the Sovereign. Can it be that just because you wish to see the Sovereign, that I must lead you? What sort of status does the Sovereign have? Why would the Sovereign be willing to see all of you? In addition, I'm not qualified to lead you there." Linley couldn't help but say frantically, "Ar. Enough." Arthurs said calmly, "I'm simply a Sovereign's emissary. Don't make things hard for me. If you truly have made up your mind to meet the Sovereign, then continue adventuring forward. After exiting the Grey Fog region, enter the Violet Fog region. After you reach the Violet Fog region, you'll be able to reach the Sovereign's palace. By then, whether or not you will see the Sovereign is a decision for the Sovereign to make." Linley understood now as well. Arthurs was just a Sovereign's emissary, in other words, a servant. How could he be qualified to lead Linley over? When he understood this, he no longer tried to persuade Arthurs. Arthurs glanced at Linley, then shook his head and said, "Linley, I'll offer you one more word of advice. Just give it up and leave the mountain. The path up ahead isn't so easily walked. Bailey, let's go." As he spoke, Arthurs, Bailey, and Blown all flew away at high speed. Linley and BB didn't follow. They just stayed there. "Boss." BB looked at him. "Continue forward," Linley said calmly. "Arthurs advised me to go down the mountain, yes, but I knew long ago, that the Violet Fog region is definitely dangerous. But no matter how dangerous it is, I will still go through it." Whether for the sake of his father or for the sake of his dead friends, he had to go deeper into the Abyssal Mountain. BB nodded slightly. "Wherever the boss goes, I go." Linley glanced at BB. He couldn't help but laugh, but in his heart, he felt a hint of apology. For now, no one could say exactly how dangerous the Violet Fog region was. BB, however, ignored it all and continued to loyally follow Linley deeper in. Still, over the course of thousands of years, there was no need for Linley and BB to say words of thanks to each other, as though they were outsiders. "Let's go." That's all Linley said. "Right." BB followed as well. The two fearlessly advanced into the Grey Fog region. In the Grey Fog region, since they were no longer affected by the Grey Fog, it was just a matter of luck for exiting it. Linley and BB spent nearly half an hour searching, encountering, and battling quite a few maddened Highgods on the way. Linley and BB didn't dare to engage in battle for too long, fleeing each time. After half an hour, they finally exited the Grey Fog region. While they had been at the base of the mountain, they had seen that the White Fog region and the Grey Fog region took up more than 90% of the entire Abyssal Mountain. When Linley and BB arrived at the empty space where the Grey Fog region and the Violet Fog region intersected, they discovered that, upon taking a closer look, the Violet Fog region was also fairly large. "The two of you made it out," a voice rang out. Linley and BB, who had just made it out of the Grey Fog region, turned to look. They saw the violet-haired youth, Blown, laugh while walking towards them. "The two of you came faster than I expected. We can't compete with you." You had a sovereign's emissary guiding you. BB pursed his lips. Blown laughed calmly. In the past, Blown had always been frost-faced, but now he often laughed and smiled. There was nothing for it, his only family member, his big brother, was still alive. To Blown, this surprise was an even greater and better one than acquiring an abyssal fruit. Linley. Blown looked at Linley. My big brother and the sovereign's emissary, when leaving, asked me to once more warn you that this violet fog region is very dangerous, far more so than the grey fog region. Although the two of you are very powerful, you killed the spirit snake, once you go in, you will have virtually no chance of making it out again. Linley frowned. Killed the spirit snake? Linley said. What does killing the spirit snake have to do with the violet fog region? BB asked. Blown said, that Arthur's told me that the abyssal fruit tree normally remains within the violet fog region. Only once in countless years will it enter the grey fog region. Those Highgods have a chance in the grey fog region to acquire the abyssal fruit, but there's no way they will make it in the violet fog region. Now that you've killed the spirit snake, it's best if you don't go to the violet fog region. Linley and BB exchanged glances. They couldn't help but feel the situation was bad. So over the course of countless years, the abyssal fruit tree always resided within the violet fog region. Thank you for your warning. However, we will still go make the attempt. Linley said. Of course we'll go. Why should we fear the abyssal tree? BB said disdainfully. Although he said this, however, in his heart, BB wasn't confident either. This was because earlier, when he used his innate divine ability against the abyssal fruit tree, he hadn't been able to find its divine spark. Blown, seeing they wouldn't be dissuaded, had no choice but to say nothing further. Linley and BB flew directly into the violet fog region. Blown watched them fly in, then let out a sigh. I hope the two of you will make it out alive. On this trip to the abyssal mountain, Linley helped him and also let him see his big brother. Blown felt quite a bit of goodwill towards Linley and BB. The violet fog region. Hey, it feels really nice. BB looked suspiciously around, while Linley also vigilantly kept watch. The surrounding area was filled with endless violet fog, and indeed, it was very different from the white fog and the grey fog. Within the violet fog region, not only were there no negative effects to the violet fog, the two felt refreshed and relaxed. It was much like that refreshing feeling they had when they smelled the abyssal fruit. This violet fog region is so quiet. BB sent mentally. Boss, it seems as though the violet fog region doesn't have much danger. Don't be careless. Advance with caution. Linley said with a frown as he advanced. Tricolored regions. From the white fog region to the grey fog region, then to the violet fog region. Linley didn't believe that the violet fog region would really be as calm and peaceful as it seemed on the surface. That Arthur's had also repeatedly warned him as well. Clearly, this violet fog region was extremely dangerous. Large amounts of dwarf trees and bushes were growing on the ground. There were no other life forms present. Linley and BB didn't dare to relax at all, but after advancing for quite some time, they still didn't sense anything. Can it be that we are going to just be allowed to advance like this? BB murmured. Linley's pupils suddenly contracted as he stared to the front. What's that? BB called out in shock. From afar, a large number of branches and leaves could be seen at an astonishing density. The violet fog region had much greater visibility than the other regions, allowing nearly 1,000 meters of vision, but despite that, all they could see up ahead was those dense clusters of leaves. Let's take a closer look. Linley said in a low voice. Linley and BB advanced forward. Once they drew closer to the trunks of these trees, Linley discovered to his astonishment that, this branch is actually the branch of an abyssal fruit tree. Linley could recognize it at a glance. The abyssal fruit tree was not like ordinary trees, the branches were very unusual. An enormous, sturdy branch of multiple meters was present, and not just one, many branches of similar thickness were present. The many branches all intersected, giving birth to countless smaller branches. This is the crown of a tree. An astonishingly large tree crown. Linley couldn't help but feel stunned. Originally, when they had been in the Grey Fog region, they had seen that the abyssal fruit tree stretched out to hundreds of meters, with the main trunk being just 2 or 3 meters. But this same exact type of tree present here, the branches alone were multiple meters thick. What they saw was nothing more than the crowns of the tree. They hadn't even seen the main trunk yet. How enormous must this tree be? There's more than just one abyssal fruit tree. Linley couldn't help but feel breathless. Book 18, Highgod, Chapter 28, Repercussions. Clearly, the revealed portion of the abyssal fruit tree was like the tip of an iceberg. This definitely wasn't the one which had appeared within the Grey Fog region. This tree was terrifyingly large, and its branches were sturdier than the trunk of the first abyssal fruit tree. Boss, such an enormous abyssal fruit tree. BB was somewhat numb. He hadn't been able to do anything to the abyssal fruit tree earlier. Continue forward. Linley growled. At the same time, he immediately set up his blackstone space, forming it into a hemisphere that was 20 meters in diameter. A powerful repulsive force was in effect within the blackstone space, and any outside objects that entered it would suffer from it. As they walked. After having walked for thousands of meters, as far Linley and BB could see, there was only that terrifyingly enormous tree crown. That astonishingly large tree crown was formed from countless thick branches in a titanic coil, which was why it was supportable. Boss, look up above. BB suddenly said. Linley couldn't help but follow BB's gaze. Within the scattered green leaves, a small green snake had appeared atop one of the leaves. Green snake. Linley was astonished. This small green snake represents that a giant green snake must be here as well. These small green snakes all rely on the life force of the giant green spirit snakes. In other words, aside from the spirit snake which BB killed, there are other spirit snakes present. Linley felt his heart begin to clench. Suddenly, Linley couldn't help but narrow his eyes. On many of the tree leaves above, one green snake after another began to emerge. These palm-sized, finger-wide green snakes all stared at Linley and BB, but they didn't attack. So many. BB sent mentally in alarm. Keep going forward. Linley ignored the green serpents, continuing to advance forward. While advancing forward, Linley discovered that a large number of green snakes were appearing everywhere. On the road over alone, hundreds of thousands of green snakes had appeared, far more than the number which had appeared within the Grey Fog region. Linley felt astonished and shaken as well. There were so many little green snakes, then what of the spirit snake? There's the main trunk. Linley and BB couldn't help but stare into the distance. After first having seen the tree crowns, they had walked for nearly 10,000 meters. Linley and BB now finally saw the main trunk of this abyssal fruit tree, and when they saw it, good heavens, how could this be a trunk? This was a wall. A tall, towering wall. The main trunk of this abyssal fruit tree's diameter was hundreds of meters long. The main trunk had a diameter of hundreds of meters. As for the crown, it reached nearly 10,000 meters. How enormous a tree was this? And more importantly, it was an abyssal fruit tree. In the Netherworld, there were other thick trees like this. But the material those trees were made of was inferior. It must be understood, the branches of these trees, which served as their arms, were unbreakable even for Linley, who only managed to chop halfway through with a full-strength blow. The more precious something was, the rarer it was. This sort of large tree was far too sturdy, and so it should be a bit smaller. But this was too enormous. The trunk alone is hundreds of meters thick. There's no way I would be able to chop through it. Linley sighed to himself. The material a tree's trunk was made out of was generally of higher quality than even the branches. And given how thick the trunk was, how could it be destructible? Boss, look above, look, quick. Abyssal fruit. BB cried out in alarm. Linley raised his head to look. Above this abyssal fruit tree, spots of violet light could be seen flashing through the branches. Although they were very far away and covered up by branches, making them hard to see, the dots of violet light were flashing like precious gemstones and so were very eye-catching. Abyssal fruit. And, there's dozens of them. Linley couldn't help but draw nearer, and BB did the same. After drawing closer, they were able to see it more clearly as well. That crystalline skin, that tender, watery violet fruit, the abyssal fruits was amidst the green leaves. These fruits were like little lanterns hanging in the sky. There were dozens of them. So much abyssal fruit. BB was stupefied. But in countless years, there's only been 4 abyssal fruit to appear in the Netherworld, including the one Bailey just acquired. But here, there are actually so many. Linley was still calm, because Linley understood that these abyssal fruits wouldn't be easily taken by him, as if they were, others would have taken them away long ago. After entering the violet fog region, he hadn't met with any danger yet. Haha, abyssal fruit. So there are so many of them. BB's eyes were shining. Spirit snake, where are you? Emerge. Linley said coldly. At the same time, his gaze flashed past the crown of a nearby tree, where the tightly clustered green snakes were all staring at Linley and BB. BB immediately laughed loudly. Hey, why have so many little snakes pop out? Are you trying to scare us? Hurry up and have your main form pop out as well. As you wish. A cold, fierce voice echoed out from within the abyssal fruit tree. Linley and BB immediately turned to look. Hiss. A giant green snake that was as thick as an arm but which was tens of meters long slithered out from within the leaves. That soft, serpentine body coiled around one of the thick branches, its serpentine head raised and staring coldly at Linley and BB. BB was about to say something, but he came to a sudden halt. Because next to this giant green snake, yet another giant green snake appeared, its body slightly larger. This giant green snake also coiled around a branch, but its body drooped downward slightly as it rested against it. Its twin eyes glowed with violet light as it also stared at Linley and BB, its gaze filled with a killing intent. Hiss. The leaves constantly trembled as one giant green snake after another emerged from the depths. BB kept counting aloud. 3, 4, 5, 8, 9. He finally stopped counting. There were 9 giant green snakes which coiled about, close to each other, wrapping themselves either around the trunk or the branches. These 9 giant snakes all stared angrily at Linley and BB. In terms of size, these giant green snakes were all roughly comparable, and were similar to the giant green snake in the Grey Fog region as well. There's 9 of them. This is a bit tricky. BB frowned. These giant green snakes were very hard to deal with. If BB wanted to kill them, he would have to rely on his innate divine ability, God Aider. After such a long period of time, BB's spiritual energy had recovered, true, but there were 9 of the giant green snakes here. 9 of them. Linley felt that this was rather nettlesome as well. BB, we don't want the abyssal fruit. Let's go now. Linley sent mentally. After so many years, nobody had been able to acquire so many abyssal fruit. Forget about the 9 troublesome spirit snakes for now. What was truly terrifying was that frighteningly thick and enormous abyssal fruit tree. If such an enormous abyssal fruit tree were to attack the 2 of them, that would be troublesome. It was best to leave quickly and depart the violet fog region. We don't want it. BB was stunned. Hurry and go. Linley glanced at him, and BB acknowledged, fine, then. Swoosh. Swoosh. Linley and BB simultaneously transformed into two blurs. Fleeing to the side at high speed. Running. Those 9 giant green snakes instantly shot out from the abyssal fruit tree. They were like 9 bolts of green lightning, streaking directly towards Linley and BB. Unfortunately, Linley and BB were fleeing at high speed, and the space around them had the Blackstone space set up. Those 9 giant snakes weren't able to catch up to Linley at all. "You want to chase us? In your dreams." BB laughed as he spoke. Rustle, suddenly, many branches from the tree crown up above lowered, pressing down like a mountain and falling to the ground. Linley and BB only felt the ground ahead of them turn black. The road was completely sealed off. "The abyssal fruit tree will block us when we flee." After having previously tested the toughness of these branches, Linley and BB turned without even hesitating. And as they did, they saw that the 9 giant snakes had already come to a halt and were coiling on the ground in front of them. "You want to flee?" "Ha ha," a deep, rumbling voice echoed out from the mouths of one of the green snakes. Its insidious violet eyes flashed as it stared at Linley and BB. "Let me tell you this. The violet fog region of the abyssal mountain will be your tomb." A cold voice rang out from another giant green snake. "The two of you are called Linley and BB, right? You are quite formidable. You actually killed our elder sister. Over the course of countless years, we 10 siblings have always been happily together. Our elder sister went to deliver the abyssal fruit to you, but you actually killed her. Ha ha, even if all 9 of us have to die, we will kill you and avenge our elder sister." "Right, avenge our elder sister." Another giant green snake howled angrily as well. The 9 giant snakes all had rage and hatred flashing in their violet eyes. Linley couldn't help but feel that his head hurt. So that spirit snake really did have a connection to these 9 spirit snakes. It was actually their elder sister. Linley had known long ago that there would be trouble, but he hadn't expected that the spirit snake had 9 siblings. "Hey, what are you talking about? Your elder sister went to deliver the abyssal fruit to us," BB said angrily. "You all have mental issues. Your elder sister was delivering us abyssal fruit? Then why did she do everything she could to impede us? If your elder sister hadn't gone too far, why would I be so bored as to kill her?" Actually, acting as a guardian was the mission of the spirit snakes. It was the same each time. By using the spirit snakes as guardians, a person with sufficient power would be selected. As the other 9 siblings of the first spirit snake saw it, their elder sister had indeed gone to deliver the abyssal fruit to these outsiders. That impeding she did was nothing more than a test. She went to deliver abyssal fruit, but ended up being killed? How could her 9 siblings not be infuriated? "Second brother, don't waste words with them. Kill them," a giant green snake said. "Kill." The deep voice rang out again. Instantly, the 9 giant green snakes split up into 9 directions, forming a spherical trap around Linley and BB. However, Linley's Blackstone space was 20 meters in diameter, while this trap was also very large. The 9 giant green snakes were all outside of the Blackstone space. The 9 giant green snakes began to slither about. And 9 pairs of 3-star violet pupils stared unblinkingly at Linley and BB. Hiss, they slithered about at high speed, forming countless blurs. Linley and BB weren't able to clearly see the snakes at all, just 9 streaks of violet light. The streaks of violet light actually started twisted about, seeming like strings which began to constrict the space between them, like a fishnet compressing down towards Linley and BB. What sort of technique is this? Linley couldn't quite understand, but he didn't overthink things. His immediate response was, the sudden expansion of the Blackstone space, which instantly expanded to trap the 9 giant green snakes within. The powerful repulsive force was applied to the green snakes, and the speed of the green snakes couldn't help but drop, and their bodies couldn't help but be moved as well. Their joint attack was disrupted. "Attack that Linley!" A furious shout rang out. Instantly, those 9 giant green snakes almost simultaneously shot out, transforming into 9 green streaks of light as they charged towards Linley, biting down towards Linley with their fangs bared. But because of the Blackstone space, their speed wasn't that fast. Actually, the most powerful attack of these spirit snakes was to use their venomous fangs to bite others, but they knew Bibi's body was too powerful. Their elder sister's fangs had shattered, and yet she still wasn't able to harm Bibi. Thus, they temporarily chose to deal with Linley first. The venomous fangs of these spirit snakes were on a completely different level from the venomous fangs of the little green snakes. A bite from the venomous fangs of these spirit snakes was even more terrifying than the little green snakes wriggling in one's body. Linley saw those 9 giant maws swing open and bite towards him. He couldn't help but be stunned. Given how troublesome it was to be bitten by those little green snakes, if these spirit snakes bite me, I'm not Bibi. The defense of his draconic scales was indeed powerful, but even the draconic scales of Patriarch Gislason wasn't as powerful as the defense of Beirut and Bibi, the level of God's Park weapons. Linley, with the thought, made the repulsive force of his Blackstone space transform into a downward pull. The 9 serpentine heads bit down, but as they did, they suddenly sank downwards. Linley instantly activated his spiritual chaos technique. Linley's current spiritual chaos technique would somewhat affect even 7 star fiends. Linley discovered, to his surprise, that these 9 giant snakes weren't affected by the spiritual chaos at all. The 9 giant green heads once more rose up, biting towards Linley. Linley wielded the God's Park sword, Mirage, and delivered a full force blow using the laws of the earth. Where Mirage slashed past, space trembled and split apart. In the Blackstone space, the giant green snakes found it hard to dodge. Slash. One of the giant green snakes was struck. Its entire body trembled, and a large wound appeared on its body, with violet blood oozing out of it. What tough skin! Linley was secretly surprised. His attack contained the profound mysteries of the laws of the earth, and in terms of attack power, was much stronger than Bibi's strikes. But he was only able to wound the giant green snake. Arg! The giant green snake howled in agony, biting down in rage as its 2 sharp fangs glistened with a strange black light. Swoosh! Linley instantly retreated, lightning fast. 9 in pursuit, 1 fleeing while occasionally delivering a few sword blows. Second brother, the gravitational power of this bastard's gravitational space is too strong. We aren't able to catch up to him within the range of his effect. A giant green snake said frantically. These 9 green snakes realized what the problem was now. Rustle, right at this moment, the abyssal fruit tree began to tremble violently. Book 18, Highgod, Chapter 29, Invincible. Boss. Bibi was alarmed. Linley's face changed dramatically as well. From the leaves of the abyssal fruit tree, those truly innumerable little green snakes all shot out towards him, whether from close by or from afar. They formed a vast web in the sky, filling Linley's field of vision as they shot out towards him from within. The number of little green snakes was so great, they were more than enough to completely bury Linley alive. The 9 giant green snakes laughed coldly as they watched. First kill that Linley, then deal with the other one. They were very confident, because Linley's draconic scales were not yet so powerful as to allow him to ignore the bites of those little green snakes. HRM. Linley, with a thought. Rumble, a thick earthen yellow light sprang up, and large amounts of earth-type divine power wildly spread out. With Linley at the center, in a range of 100 meters, an earthen yellow cube of 100 meters in length suddenly appeared. Blackstone Prison. Many little green snakes had already entered the Blackstone Prison, while many other green snakes threw themselves against the walls of the Blackstone Prison, attempting to bite through and charge in. But when they charged in, they discovered that they were separated into yet another little room. Immediately, the little green snakes began to wildly bite everywhere and fly everywhere. Every single sealed room was cube-shaped and was 2.5 meters long. There were 64,000 little sealed rooms within this 100-meter-long blackstone prison. Ray-a-a-or. A furious roar rang out as the 9 giant green snakes all twirled their bodies, biting through and smashing one room after another. But as soon as they shattered one wall, it would quickly reform. At the same time, the blackstone prison was constantly changing and moving about, quickly separating the 9 spirit snakes. Within the blackstone prison, Linley suddenly emerged from within one of the sealed rooms, easily killing the little green snakes present within this room, then quickly departing. The other little green snakes, knowing that Linley had appeared, all hurried over, but by the time they arrived, Linley had moved elsewhere long ago. In the blackstone prison, Linley was able to move about at high speed. And given that the 64,000 rooms were all filled with a powerful gravitational pull, the green snakes were completely unable to surround him and attack en masse. "You want to kill me with one move?" Linley laughed calmly as he slaughtered these little green snakes. These little green snakes possess tremendous amounts of energy as well. By killing them, I am definitely injuring the 9 spirit snakes as well. Linley didn't mind working a little harder and killing a few more of the little green snakes. Linley began to wildly slaughter and massacre the little green snakes. The blackstone prison was under Linley's control. And Linley knew exactly where there were numerous little green snakes and where there were few of them. The little green snakes suffered, but were unable to group up en masse to surround and attack Linley. In the blackstone prison, they could do nothing but wait as though they were blinded. The 9 giant green snakes, now outside the blackstone prison, were already furious. "What is this damn thing?" A clear voice rang out from the mouth of one of the giant green snakes. She stared angrily at the enormous earthen yellow cube. "It repairs as soon as we break it. If this continues, we'll lose a great deal of energy." A hoarse voice rang out. "We won't be able to kill Linley within those rooms." Immediately, under their control, the many green snakes began to wildly flee, biting through one wall after another before escaping the blackstone prison. All of the green snakes fled, returning to the abyssal fruit tree. Rumble, the blackstone prison transformed into energy, then vanished. Linley and Bibi appeared. "Haha, you wanted to kill us, right?" Bibi laughed from rage. "Come, then. Let me see what other tricks you have." Linley stared coldly at the 9 giant green snakes as well. "You are indeed very strong." A deep, hoarse voice rang out. Linley and Bibi couldn't help but turn to stare at the crown of the abyssal fruit tree. The sound came from there. With the rustle sound of leaves parting, a serpentine form covered in golden scales and which was more than 2 meters thick slowly slithered out. A powerful aura emanated forth from it. Linley and Bibi couldn't help but hold their breaths. "My heavens," Bibi stared with wide eyes. "This," Linley couldn't help but narrow his eyes. The colossal golden snake continued to slither out from the crown of the trees. The part of its slithering, serpentine body that appeared was already more than 200 meters long. Moments later, the entire body of the colossal golden snake was completely revealed. This was an enormous golden snake that was nearly 500 or 600 meters long and 2 meters thick. The golden snake coiled around the branches of the abyssal fruit tree. Its ice-cold pupils were jade green, and it stared down towards Linley and Bibi. "Father!" The 9 giant green snakes immediately scurried over. "Father, it's the 2 of them. You have to avenge our elder sister." The 9 giant green snakes all spoke in the human tongue. "Don't worry." A low, hoarse voice rang out from the giant golden snake's mouth. "Leave one of them for me." An icy cold voice rang out from behind. Linley and Bibi couldn't help but stare, then immediately swivel to look. A giant silver snake whose body was comparable in size to the giant golden snake flew out from afar. The thing which astonished about Linley about this giant silver snake was, it had 9 heads. And each head of this 9-headed silver snake had black pupils, as black as the deepest recesses of the abyss itself. "Mother!" The 9 giant green snakes immediately called out. "You returned?" The colossal golden snake said. "My daughter died. How could I not?" The 9-headed silver snake said coldly. Bibi let out a snort. "No wonder you gave birth to a pack of little freaks. The parents are both freaks as well." The aura emanating from these 2 colossal snakes was simply too terrifying, to the point where the aura alone made Linley and Bibi feel their heads go slightly dizzy. Linley and Bibi both understood that this gold-silver snake pair was far more powerful than their children. "Humph, aren't you a freak as well, you little creature?" The colossal golden snake stared at Bibi, its jade-green eyes filled with a cold look. "The one who killed our daughter was him." The 9-headed silver serpent stared at Bibi. "Right," the colossal golden snake said. "Then, let me deal with that little creature," the 9-headed silver serpent said in its hoarse voice. The colossal golden snake's giant head turned slightly as it stared at Linley. "Fine, then hand this punk from the 4 divine beasts clan to me." Humph, even when his ancestor, the Azure Dragon, was still alive, they wouldn't dare act in this manner towards our abyssal mountain. But now, the Azure Dragon's descendants actually dare to kill our children. Enough of that, the 9-headed silver serpent said emotionlessly. Linley and Bibi exchanged glances. With Linley at the center, an earthen yellow aura instantly spread out, encompassing an area of nearly 1,000 meters, swallowing up the colossal golden snake and the 9-headed silver serpent. The 2 giant snakes, suffering the sudden attack of the gravitational pull, couldn't help but have their massive serpentine bodies droop down slightly. Moments later, however, they recovered and adjusted to compensate. "What powerful gravity!" The colossal golden snake looked towards Linley. "You actually have some sort of a connection to the Redbud Sovereign of the Infernal Realm. However, despite that, you still must die." "What, you think you'll be able to kill us just because you say so? Do you have the ability?" Bibi said coldly. Very suddenly, the colossal golden snake opened its mouth, and instantly, a thick, jade-green light shot out from within the colossal golden snake's mouth, enveloping towards Linley. This jade-green light wasn't impacted at all by the blackstone space. Linley wasn't able to dodge in time, and was completely covered by the jade-green light, which instantly invaded Linley's body. Within Linley's mind, the green light formed into countless specks of green, wildly corroding, striking against, and chewing against Linley's soul-protecting sovereign artifact. Much like attacking a city, the many green spots were dispersed everywhere, with quite a few of the green spots wildly attacking the bandage over the flaw. Linley had spent 200 years of work on the bandage, and as a result of his repair work, the bandage was now exceedingly sturdy. Although it couldn't compare to the other parts of the soul-protecting sovereign artifact, it was still comparable to most ordinary soul-protecting artifacts. Crackle, the bandage was quickly being depleted. Not good. Linley felt that things were going wrong. He immediately controlled his spiritual energy to help defend as well. As those jade-green spots ravenously slammed against the bandage, with a bang, the bandage was finally broken through. Only a sliver of green spots remained, however. Linley's spiritual energy wildly charged through, finally extinguishing the remnants of the energy. Linley's defense had held. But, the repairs he had carried out on the soul-protecting sovereign artifact over the course of 2 centuries were completely wiped out in this single attack. At the same time, the 9-headed silver serpent used its supreme technique as well. The black eyes in its 9 enormous silver heads stared at Bibi. While at the same time, its body began to form into an enormous illusion. The 9-headed silver serpent began to activate its awe-inspiring innate divine ability. Swish! Swish! The 9-headed silver serpent's 9 pairs of eyes simultaneously shot out with 9 rays of pitch-black light. 18 rays of light shot towards Bibi. Bibi dodged, but the black light curved as though sentient, then pierced into Bibi's pupils. Urgh! Bibi let out an agonized call. Linley just finished his defense. Turning to look, Linley was shocked. Bibi. Not dead. The colossal golden serpent, seeing that Linley had taken his attack without dying, couldn't help but feel amazed. It knew very well how powerful this technique of his was, even ordinary soul-protecting divine artifacts wouldn't be able to resist it. Haha, that was rather powerful. Bibi suddenly began to laugh loudly as he stared furiously at the nine-headed silver serpent. Linley couldn't help but feel relieved. Impossible. The nine-headed silver serpent couldn't believe it. His body is already so powerful. How could his soul be so powerful as well? The heavens were equitable. Bibi's body was already so tough that even the nine-headed silver serpent was jealous of him. With his body so powerful, logically speaking, his soul should be a bit weaker. But Bibi had actually been able to endure her innate divine ability. I don't want to kill you. Don't go too far. Linley shouted. He had come this time to ask the sovereign for help. Linley had the feeling that these two giant snakes should have some sort of connection to the sovereign, and so didn't want to unleash killing attacks. Roar! The colossal golden snake wasn't the slightest bit receptive to this. With a bellow, it suddenly shot forward, spreading wide its maw and biting viciously towards Linley. His speed is actually so fast. Linley was inwardly surprised. However, Linley didn't dare to allow himself be bitten by this colossal golden snake. Boss, let's do it. Bibi sent mentally. Linley stared at the attacking colossal golden snake. His eyes grew cold. Behind Linley and Bibi, illusory blurs simultaneously appeared. Behind Linley was a coiling azure dragon phantom, which was staring coldly at the colossal golden snake. As for Bibi, behind Bibi appeared the enormous illusion of a god-eater rat, which was also staring at the nine-headed silver serpent. Innate divine ability, dragon roar. Innate divine ability, god-eater. Boom. Suddenly, the earth split apart, and large amounts of slender, long tendrils shot outwards, blocking directly in front of Linley and Bibi. The energy which Linley and Bibi had expended in using their innate divine abilities was directly blocked by these tendrils. Or, to be more precise, were all expended upon the tendrils. Linley and Bibi were stunned. The many branches and tendrils which were hit by these two mighty innate divine abilities weren't affected at all. Why is there no response? Bibi couldn't believe it. Suddenly, one of the tendrils shot backwards, landing upon Bibi's body. Although it passed through the blackstone space, the speed at which this tendril struck out still was enough to make it impossible for Bibi to dodge. Whap! Bibi was struck and sent flying far away. Red blood splattered out into the air. Bang! Bibi slammed into the ground. He stared at his chest, where a wound that was so deep that bones were visible had appeared. Blood was dripping out of it. Bibi stared at his wound, stupefied. Linley stared at this in disbelief as well. Bibi was actually injured. His body was comparable to a god's park weapon, but he was actually injured. Bibi. Linley immediately moved to Bibi's side. Bibi's wound was naturally closing, but Bibi still stared at the branches in front of him in disbelief. These branches were clearly those of the abyssal fruit tree. Enough. Killing their daughter was one thing. There's no need to kill any further. A deep voice rang out from within the abyssal fruit tree. Atop the main trunk of the abyssal fruit tree, an enormous face suddenly appeared, hovering there and staring towards Linley and Bibi. This is... Linley and Bibi both felt a powerful aura. Sovereign. The colossal golden serpent and the nine-headed silver serpent immediately looked towards the abyssal fruit tree and said hurriedly, "He killed our daughter. Sovereign, you cannot pardon them." Sovereign. Linley and Bibi stared, stunned, at the abyssal fruit tree. Book 18, Highgod, Chapter 30, Unable to Help. Linley now completely understood everything. No wonder the abyssal fruit tree which had appeared within the grey fog region was able to so easily deal with Linley and Bibi, and Bibi's innate divine ability, Godator, wasn't able to locate the divine spark of the abyssal fruit tree either. Now, it seemed, the former abyssal fruit tree was nothing more than a small part of the abyssal fruit tree before them. It wasn't strange for a part of a sovereign to have such power. The connection between the abyssal fruit tree in the grey fog region and this abyssal fruit tree was like the relationship between the green snakes and the spirit snakes. The green snakes didn't have a soul, and that small abyssal fruit tree naturally had no soul either. Sovereign! Linley hurriedly called out, while at the same time, he sunk to his knees with a banging sound. The colossal golden snake and the nine-headed silver serpent stared angrily at Linley and Bibi. Then the colossal golden snake begged, "Sovereign, these two harmed my daughter. Sovereign, you know very well what occurred. Sovereign, you must avenge our daughter." The colossal golden snake pressed its enormous head against the ground as well. Bang! Bibi fell to his knees as well, saying urgently, "Sovereign, we can't be blamed. Back then, we didn't know." Bibi was afraid that the sovereign wouldn't assist Linley. The nine-headed silver serpent and the colossal golden snake stared angrily towards Bibi and Linley. Linley didn't interject further. He just knelt there, awaiting the sovereign's words. Enough. A hint of jade light flashed through the eyes of the enormous face atop the main trunk of the abyssal fruit tree as the face stared at this group of people. Everyone its gaze swept past, whether currently nervous or enraged, instantly fell silent. Gold, although it is true that they are at fault in this matter, their sins do not warrant death, as they didn't actually know the truth. The sovereign had branches present. Naturally, the sovereign had seen everything clearly. He, too, had wanted to save the spirit snake, but the power of the branches present was unable to block Bibi's innate divine ability. The nine-headed silver serpent immediately glanced at the colossal golden snake. She knew that her husband was on very good terms with the abyssal fruit tree sovereign. The colossal golden snake hurriedly said in supplication, "Sovereign, my daughter, Tina. You watched her grow up. Can it be that you truly won't avenge Tina's death?" Others wouldn't dare to speak to a sovereign in such a matter, but he did. This was because he had slowly grown up over the course of countless years along with the abyssal fruit tree, from antiquity until present. Gold. The abyssal fruit tree's enormous face frowned. "Leave it at this." When these words came out, the 9 giant green snakes, the 9-headed silver serpent, and the colossal golden snake didn't dare say anything further. Since the sovereign had already made his proclamation, there would be no good result if they continued to persist. "Linley, the two of you can leave," the giant face said emotionlessly. "Sovereign." Linley knelt there and said in supplication, "I have come from the infernal realm to the Netherworld for the sake of meeting with you, Sovereign. I have something to beg of you." I hope, as soon as Linley's words came out, and before he finished speaking, the nearby colossal golden snake and 9-headed silver serpent instantly breathed through their nostrils in rage. "In your dreams," the colossal golden snake bellowed. "The sovereign has already shown grace and kindness to you by not killing you. You still dream of having the sovereign help you? F***ck off. Immediately F***ck off. Immediately F***ck off." The 9 green snakes also bellowed out in succession. As for the 9-headed silver serpent, she was so angry that her serpentine scales began to shine as she stared at Linley. "Hurry up and leave, and we too, husband and wife, will spare you. If you stay here and futilely hope for the sovereign to help you, then I, Yin will today kill you, even if it costs me my life." The reason why she didn't immediately attack Linley and Bibi was first because of their power, and second because of the sovereign's command. Linley dared to ask the sovereign for help? Naturally, they were no longer able to suppress their rage. The sovereign hasn't even spoken, and yet all of you interject. Bibi bellowed angrily. It was indeed very impolite to interject in front of a sovereign, but Bibi clearly had no idea about the nature of the relationship between the abyssal fruit tree and the spirit snakes. The giant face atop the abyssal fruit tree's trunk swept everyone with its gaze. All of you, quiet. Let's listen to Linley speak first. Sovereign. The colossal golden snake stared in surprise towards the abyssal fruit tree. The abyssal fruit tree glanced sideways at him, and he immediately fell silent. Linley said gratefully, Sovereign, the reason I have come to beg you for your help is that I hope you can help me find my family and friends, who have become undead within the Netherworld. To let them regain their former memories. I know that you, Sovereign, are able to do this. I hope you will take pity on them, Sovereign. Linley pressed his forehead against the ground. Bibi, seeing this, couldn't help but feel his eyes turn moist. When had Linley ever acted in such a manner? I hope you will take pity on them, Sovereign. Bibi also knelt down, his head pressing against the ground. Linley and Bibi both begged, while the abyssal fruit tree was momentarily silent. Linley, on his knees, felt restless nervousness in his heart. He had come all this way for the sovereign's response. What Linley feared the most was, the sovereign's refusal. Linley didn't wish for his hope to be destroyed. You can leave. The deep voice rang out anew. Linley's entire body trembled. Bibi also raised his head in disbelief as he looked towards the abyssal fruit tree. Sovereign, can't you just help out? Bibi stuttered. Linley raised his head to look at the sovereign as well, his eyes filling with tears. He begged earnestly, Sovereign. Enough. There's nothing I can do to help. The deep voice rang out. Nothing you can do to help. Linley raised his head, staring at the abyssal fruit tree. Not a hint of emotion could be seen on the giant face atop the abyssal fruit tree. Linley said frantically, How could you be unable to help? I know, Netherworld Sovereign, that any of you are able to find the undead which the souls of the dead are transformed into, and to restore their memories to them. Humph! The nearby 9-headed silver serpent let out a cold snort, while the colossal gold snake and the 9 giant green snakes all stared coldly towards Linley and Bibi. You are begging the wrong sovereign. The colossal golden snake snickered. Linley and Bibi were stunned. A deep voice rang out from atop the abyssal fruit tree. It is indeed a fact that I cannot help you in this. Because, I am not a Netherworld sovereign. I am a sovereign of life. Linley and Bibi, hearing this, were stunned. The sovereign of the abyssal mountain wasn't a Netherworld sovereign? You've come to the abyssal mountain. If you wish to find a Netherworld sovereign, it's still simple, continue forward, to the sovereign's palace within the Violet Fog region and wait patiently. However, let me give you a word of warning, the sovereign of death's temper isn't as good as mine. This sovereign of death might just kill you because of Tina's death. The abyssal fruit tree said. Linley and Bibi exchanged glances. So this abyssal mountain actually had 2 sovereigns. One, a sovereign of life. The other, a Netherworld sovereign of death. Linley was able to guess why this abyssal fruit tree said he had a good temper. He had stayed here for countless years, and trained in the edicts of life. It was normal for him to be good-tempered. But the sovereign of death trained in the edicts of death. In the infernal realm and the Netherworld, Linley hadn't met a single practitioner of the edicts of death who had a good temper. Most of them were resolute and violent. Boss, should we go? Bibi sent mentally. Of course. Linley didn't hesitate. Bibi hurriedly sent mentally, didn't you hear what the sovereign of life just said? That sovereign of death has a temper, and isn't as good-natured as this one. If he kills the 2 of us because that spirit snake died, then that would be such a stifling, unhappy death. As I see it, there are 7 sovereigns in the Netherworld. Let's go somewhere else and try. Linley frowned. Linley was prepared to make the attempt for the sake of saving his father and friends. Too much time had already passed, and so he definitely had to try. But if Bibi were to suffer for it? Bibi. Linley looked towards Bibi, then sent mentally, "Don't go see the Sovereign of Death. I'll just go by myself." "Boss." Bibi stared at Linley. "Don't go." Linley's mentally transmitted words carried the weight of an order. "I still have my divine fire clone. But if you were to die, you would have no divine clones left." But Bibi hurriedly said, "Boss, say no more. If the Sovereign of Death truly wishes to kill me, even if I flee from the Abyssal Mountain, the Sovereign will easily be able to find and kill me. As I see it, it's best I don't run. I can't be completely blamed for what happened anyhow. That spirit snake tried to kill me, after all. Can it be that I am not permitted to fight back? I imagine that the Sovereign of Death will listen to reason." Linley said helplessly, "Bibi, you think a sovereign will listen to you reason with him? We have the medallion from the Blood-Ridge Sovereign. The Sovereign of Death, for the sake of the Blood-Ridge Sovereign's face, probably wouldn't kill us." Bibi said hurriedly, "And if he wants to kill me, there's no point in running." Linley nodded slightly. "Indeed. If a sovereign wished to kill someone, there was nowhere to run. The two of you actually dare to go see the Sovereign of Death?" The nine-headed silver serpent snickered. Linley and Bibi genuflected once more towards the abyssal fruit tree. "Thank you for your guidance, Sovereign. Might I ask, how can we exit the violet fog region?" "Just go straight, that will be enough." The abyssal fruit tree's deep voice echoed, and then the branches began to tremble. Instantly, the violet fog up ahead began to roil and billow. It parted into two sides, revealing a clear path with no fog at all. "Follow this path and walk straight forward. You will be able to reach it." The abyssal fruit tree had already given its advice. Although it was good-natured, it wouldn't repeatedly warn them. "Thank you, Sovereign," Linley and Bibi said gratefully. The enormous body of that abyssal fruit tree moved slightly, and then transformed into a hazy azure blur before vanishing. That enormous abyssal fruit tree, which took up a space of 10,000 meters or more, vanished just like that. Linley and Bibi just stood there, immediately advancing forward along the designated route. The colossal golden snake and the nine-headed silver serpent just laughed coldly. "You really are useless." The nine-headed silver serpent snickered. "You've been with the Sovereign for so many years, but you still can't persuade him. Alas, the Sovereign is simply too good-natured." The colossal golden snake said resignedly. "Watch me." The nine-headed silver serpent stared coldly at Linley and Bibi's backs. "Given my Sovereign's temper, as long as I say something, these two will definitely die." The colossal golden snake was on good terms with the abyssal fruit tree, while the nine-headed silver snake was on good terms with the Sovereign of Death. On the way over, Linley and Bibi moved extremely quickly, and they didn't encounter any dangers on the way over. Very soon, Linley and Bibi saw that in the distance, there was an empty area where there was no violet fog at all. Linley and Bibi immediately sped up, transforming into two blurred streaks and exiting the violet fog region. "We finally arrived," Bibi said jubilantly. Linley raised his head to look as well. In front of them was an empty area filled with grass and flowers. Up above, Linley couldn't help but look upwards, as in the skies above, a violet-black palace was hovering in the air. This violet-black palace was hundreds of meters tall, like a small mountain. The top of the violet-black palace was a tower-styled tip. And at the top of the tip was an enormous sphere. The sphere flashed with countless bolts of lightning. With the sphere as the origin, large amounts of lightning chains scattered downwards in every direction. "So this is where the heaven-earth chains come from." Bibi's eyes lit up. "It seems this is the Sovereign's palace." Linley took a deep breath. Right at this moment, outside the Sovereign's palace gate, two figures flew out. Linley immediately recognized that it was Arthur's and Bailey. The two of them, seeing Linley and Bibi, immediately flew over. "Linley, you really came?" Bailey said in surprise. Arthur said in disbelief as well. Yenaway and her husband, those two great snakes, didn't attack. Arthur's knew exactly how strong those two were. Even he would find it hard to act against them. "Of course they did, but they weren't strong enough and couldn't do anything to us," Bibi said with a snort. Arthur's and Bailey couldn't help but feel surprised. Arthur's, Bailey, the sovereign, Linley just was about to speak. Humph. A cold snort rang out. Linley and Bibi couldn't help but turn their heads to look back. Arthur's and Bailey looked over as well. Two skinny figures, a male and a female, were walking over. The grim-looking man was dressed in a long golden robe, while the woman with black pupils wore a long silver robe. Behind them were 9 young men and women, all dressed in long green robes. "We weren't able to do anything to them, true?" the silver-robed woman snickered. "However, very soon, they will still die." Book 18, Highgod, Chapter 31, The Chief Sovereign of Death. From the aura alone, Linley could clearly tell that this silver-robed woman in front of him was that 9-headed silver serpent. The others were her husband and her 9 children transformed into human form. "Arthur's, is the sovereign back yet?" the silver serpent, Yenaway, said. Arthur's shook his head. "Not yet. Bailey acquired the abyssal fruit and is awaiting the sovereign as well. However, the sovereign should know that Bailey acquired the abyssal fruit and should arrive soon." Linley and Bibi, upon hearing this, had no choice but tamp down their franticness and wait to one side. "Linley." Bailey walked over, saying in a low voice, "You'd best hurry up and leave." Linley raised his head, looking towards him. "Bailey, he isn't willing to leave. Why get involved in something that is none of your business?" The silver serpent, Yenaway, snickered. Bailey didn't pay any mind to that silver serpent. He continued, "Linley, this Yenaway is very close to the sovereign, and when this sovereign wants to kill someone, the sovereign will do so without a second word. Nobody can disobey a sovereign's will." Bailey clearly had learned quite a bit from Arthur's regarding the sovereign of death. Linley frowned as he glanced sideways at the silver serpent, Yenaway. A green-robed woman laughed coldly. "Now you are panicking? Let me tell you this. You won't even be able to flee. The sovereign will quickly arrive, and by then, as long as you are within the Netherworld, the sovereign will be able to quickly find and kill you too. You dared to kill my elder sister, humph." The 9 green serpent siblings were all furious, but they had tasted Linley and Bibi's power. "What have you to be smug about?" Bibi let out low, muttering curse. "Bibi, ignore them. We'll just wait over here," Linley sent mentally. And then he and Bibi immediately walked to a fairly remote area in this grassy, flower-filled region, awaiting the return of the sovereign. Linley saw that in the distance, the snake couple and their 9 children were all discussing something softly, occasionally looking over towards Linley and Bibi. As for Bailey and Arthur's, they just stayed there, silent. Clearly, Linley and Bibi wouldn't listen to their entreaties at all, so all they could do was await the sovereign's return. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours passed. The sovereign still hasn't returned. Bibi sent mentally, rather impatient. "What's the sovereign doing? You and I can't possibly understand a sovereign's mind." Linley had waited for 3 hours, and he felt as though he were steaming with impatience as well. "Bibi, judging from what that silver serpent Yenaway said, her relationship with the sovereign must be excellent. Tell me, will the sovereign be unwilling to help us because of this?" Bibi gave Linley a glance. Bibi had very few memories of Linley looking nervous, but right now, Bibi could completely sense how nervous Linley was. "Boss, the sovereign will definitely help out." "Definitely," Bibi sent back. Linley took a deep breath, feeling slightly calmer. Linley. A voice suddenly rang out. Linley turned to look, and saw Arthur's flying over. As he looked at Linley, he couldn't help but secretly shake his head while saying solemnly, "The sovereign just mentally spoke to me and ordered me to bring you and Bailey to the sovereign's palace. The sovereign should be returning soon." Linley's eyes instantly lit up. The sovereign's back. Linley felt as though heart was about to leap out of his chest. "Follow me in." Arthur's warned with a solemn expression, "You must remember, this sovereign's temper is very poor. If the sovereign takes a liking towards you, you might be treated very well, but if the sovereign takes a disliking to you, you might die in a heartbeat. Thus, you and BB must not be the slightest bit disrespectful." Linley hurriedly nodded. "Understood. I won't anger a sovereign." BB said hurriedly as well. BB knew very well that at this point, they couldn't afford even the slightest mistake. Linley could already tell from Arthur's words, that this sovereign of death should be the sort of person with an odd, unusual personality who might very well kill someone for no reason at all. It was very hard to deal with this sort of person. Sometimes, one might die without even knowing why. Arthur glanced at Linley and BB. He couldn't help but sigh to himself. Arthur knew very well that the Silver Serpent, Yenaway, was on very close terms with the sovereign. Once Yenaway complained and indicted Linley, it was very possible that the sovereign would kill Linley and BB without even giving them a chance to speak. "Let's go." Arthur immediately flew in front, while Linley and BB followed from behind. Bailey was waiting in midair. The four gathered together, then began to fly towards the palace that was floating above the peak of the abyssal mountain. The gates of the palace were open, as the colossal golden snake and the nine-headed silver serpent and their children had already entered. The palace was made out of a violet-black material, and a bone-piercing chill slowly emanated from the palace. "Follow me. Don't disobey in the slightest," Arthur said in a low voice. "Understood," Linley said. "Don't worry." Bailey clearly was rather nervous as well. This was his first time meeting the Sovereign of Death as well. Linley, BB, and Bailey immediately followed Arthur's, passing through the large front platform and entering the palace itself. Linley, BB, and Bailey didn't even dare to raise their heads to look, for fear of angering that Sovereign of Death. "Boss, the cold aura of this palace is really oppressing," BB sent mentally. At this moment, Arthur knelt and said, "I pay my respects to the Sovereign." "I pay my respects to the Sovereign." Linley, BB, and Bailey all knelt as well. After having entered the palace, the three of them didn't even dare to raise their heads without the Sovereign's permission. Or, to be more precise, to look directly at a sovereign without permission was also quite presumptuous. Linley naturally didn't dare to act in such a way right now. Right at this moment. "Sovereign!" A grief-filled voice rang out. "Tina died. It was that person called BB. He was the one who killed her. That BB wanted to kill me as well. If it hadn't been for the Sovereign of Life interfering, most likely I would never have been able to see you again. You must avenge Tina, Sovereign." Hearing this, Linley felt his heart shake. So the Silver Serpent was indeed complaining. "Mother ***, I really want to kill her," BB sent mentally. "Boss, that nine-headed Silver Serpent really makes me feel disgusted." "BB, listen to what the Sovereign says." Linley continued to kneel there. "Yen." An icy cold voice rang out from above. "I will deal with this matter." Linley and BB, upon hearing this, were both stunned. The Sovereign of Death was a woman? "The three of you can lift up your heads," the icy voice echoed in the palace. Only now did Linley, BB, and Bailey dare to lift their heads up. Only now did Linley discover that the interior of the palace was empty, not even pillars could be seen. Linley swept forward with his gaze, looking up until he saw the Sovereign of Death, seated on her throne. A pitch-black throne. Seated atop the throne was a woman dressed in long violet robes. The long violet robes were embroidered with branches and vines and a silver snake. This sovereign of death had long, blood-red hair, exquisite features, and a pair of eyes that seemed to flash with a bolt of lightning that struck into Linley's heart. As soon as Linley saw the sovereign of death's face, he was stupefied. Bibi was stupefied as well. Bailey was stunned as well. Bibi didn't know what to say. What? Very surprised. An icy voice rang out. Linley, Bailey, and Bibi were momentarily speechless. This sovereign of death, her facial features looked completely, absolutely identical to the red-haired beauty who was the boss of the Abyssal Inn at the base of the Abyssal Mountain. Even the look in her eyes was the same. Linley and the other two immediately recognized that this sovereign was the owner of the inn. The sovereign of death is the boss of the Abyssal Inn. Linley felt his head go numb. A sovereign would actually go run an inn? Ha! The sovereign of death let out a peal of utterly delighted laughter. Those looks on your faces really make me feel quite happy. Over the course of all these countless years, I've remained at the Abyssal Inn, watching you people go in, one by one, in search of the abyssal fruit. I've watched you all risk your lives and die, and it was indeed quite interesting. But what really makes me happy, is this moment. Right, that look on your faces. Ha! Linley and the other two were completely stupefied. The sovereign of death acted like this? She intentionally concocted the story of the abyssal fruit to entice countless experts of the Netherworld to adventure here, while she herself, a sovereign, opened an inn and became the boss of it, happily watching one person after another enter and perish. The sovereign of death really has nothing better to do, Linley said to himself. But indeed, the sovereign of death possessed an eternal lifespan. The abyssal fruit matter most likely really was nothing more than a game to the sovereign of death. And, to the sovereign of death, when she sat there in her sovereign's palace and granted an audience to those who acquired the abyssal fruit and came to pay homage to her, when she saw the stupefied looks on the faces of those who saw her, she was indeed very happy and delighted. The nearby Arthurs didn't dare to make a single sound either. That year, he had been the same. When he had lifted his head up and looked at the almighty sovereign of death and saw that it was the hotel owner, he too had been stupefied. All Arthurs could do was think to himself, this is how this sovereign of death is, this is a hobby of her, despite her being so powerful as to be invincible. Bailey. You wait over there for now. The sovereign of death looked with curiosity towards Linley and Bibi. It really is surprising. The two of you actually managed to make it past yen and gold. Linley, for you to be able to take gold's attack head-on was within my expectations. But yen's power is far greater than gold's. Bibi, for you to be able to endure yen's attack, I truly am astonished. Bibi, hearing this, was rather smug, but he didn't dare to act too wildly, just revealing a hint of a smile instead. Don't be smug. The reason you were able to endure it should have something to do with that Beirut. The sovereign of death let out an emotional sigh. I have to admit, that kid Beirut, to you, really is. Linley was secretly puzzled. Bibi. Linley sent mentally. Boss, I don't know either. I just relied on myself to endure it. Bibi sent mentally. Linley, I hear that you have come on this trip for the sake of finding the souls of your family and friends, who have become undead. You wish for them to regain their memories, correct? The sovereign of death said. Linley raised his head to look at the sovereign, saying with hope, yes, sovereign. Please help me, sovereign. Based on the rules which I myself laid down, since the two of you charged all the way to this place from the base of the abyssal mountain, I should grant a request of yours. The sovereign of death said. Linley and Bibi both stared at the sovereign of death, who continued, however, you killed Tina. Logically speaking, I should also kill the two of you and avenge Tina. Linley and Bibi were stunned. I should reward you for making your way here. I should punish you for killing Tina. So then, the reward and the punishment cancel each other out. I will not agree to your request, but I won't kill you either. The two of you, leave immediately. When I think of the look on your face just now, you really, haha, the sovereign of death couldn't help but begin to laugh again. She refused. Sovereign. Linley and Bibi immediately called out. Sovereign. Yenaway also called out urgently. Neither side was willing to accept this. What, you have an objection? The formerly laughing sovereign of death suddenly turned cold as her face sank. She swept the three with her gaze. This sweep of her gaze alone caused Linley and Bibi to feel as though their souls had been shaken. As for Yenaway, she too was so frightened that she no longer dared to say a word. She knew very well what sort of temper the sovereign of death had. Although she had been laughing happily, it was very possible that in the next instant, she would fiercely punish someone. Yenaway didn't dare to say a word, but how could Linley be willing to give up? Sovereign. Linley hurriedly called out, while at the same time, he flipped out the medallion of the Blood Ridge Sovereign. Linley once more knelt down and begged, Sovereign, for the sake of the Blood Ridge Sovereign, please give me a chance. Let me save my parents and my brothers. I just need a chance. Laughable. A cold voice rang out. Linley raised his head to look. The nearby Yenaway was snickering. Linley, what's the big deal about the Blood Ridge Sovereign? Do you know that my mistress is the most powerful sovereign of the entire Netherworld? The chief sovereign of death. In the countless planes of the universe, only the other three chief sovereigns of the other three higher planes are equals who are on par with my mistress. And you mention the Blood Ridge Sovereign to her? Even if you mentioned that Redbud Sovereign of yours, it would be useless. Book 18, Highgod, Chapter 32, The Netherworld Heart. Linley's heart trembled. Chief Sovereign of Death? Linley knew that each law or edict had 7 mighty sovereigns, with 1 high sovereign, 2 intermediate sovereigns, and 4 lesser sovereigns. 7 elemental laws and 4 great edicts. In total, there were only 11 high sovereigns, and these 11 high sovereigns were also termed chief sovereigns. They were the supreme kings of their laws and edicts, chief-like figures. They were the greatest of existences beneath the overgod level. As for the overgods, they were the personifications of the edicts. They had no human emotions, nor would they interfere in struggles and battles. They couldn't be counted as people. Thus, the 11 chief gods could absolutely be considered the most supreme existences of the universe. And, from what Yenaway was saying, it seemed as though the 4 chief sovereigns of the 4 higher planes were the most powerful of the 11 chief sovereigns. One could completely imagine what sort of status the sovereign of death, seated on her throne, possessed. It was indeed laughable for Linley to mention the Blood Ridge Sovereign to her. Sovereign. The nearby Bibi said frantically as well. My boss, he. Shut your mouth. The sovereign of death, seated atop her throne, said calmly. Bibi instantly felt a tremendous pressure crush down on him, preventing him from speaking. The decisions I have made are definitely irreversible. The reward and the punishment cancel each other out. I will not help you. Linley raised his head to look at the seated sovereign of death. She still was dressed in that long violet robe, and her hair was still long and blood red. This woman had that beautiful, graceful face, but the aura she naturally emanated caused Linley to feel powerless. This was one of the 4 chief sovereigns of the 4 higher planes, the chief sovereign of the Netherworld. A powerful, supreme, invincible existence. Sovereign, then my brother and I will depart. Linley rose to his feet, still bowing. The sovereign of death acknowledged calmly. Bibi couldn't help but turn to stare at Linley, transmitting mentally with franticness, Boss, are we leaving now? Right, we're leaving right now. The sovereign's decision is irrevocable. What we need to do is seize every moment and hurry to find the other Netherworld sovereigns. Linley sent mentally. He had begged the Sovereign of Death repeatedly, but hadn't been able to move her in the slightest. This Sovereign of Death isn't willing to help us, but I refuse to believe the other 6 will be the same. There was no way Linley would give up. When he thought of how his father, Yale, George, and the others were in a life and death danger, Linley felt panicked. They had died in the Yulan continent, but that wasn't a true death, as their souls had survived. But dying in the Netherworld meant their souls would disperse, just like his grandpa Douring, never to come to life ever again. Linley wasn't willing to stand by and watch their souls disperse. Even if he risked his life, he would have to rescue them. Linley glanced at the Sovereign of Death, seated on high. Right. Let's go. Linley and Bibi still bowed very courteously towards the Chief Sovereign of Death, then turned and strode outwards towards the outer palace. As for the Gold Snake and the Silver Serpent, as well as Arthur's, Bailey, and the others, they watched as Linley and Bibi left. The expressions on their faces varied. The Gold Snake and the Silver Serpent, husband and wife, just laughed coldly. Wait a moment. A cold voice suddenly rang out. Linley and Bibi, who had already reached the doorway of the palace, suddenly came to a halt. Linley turned his head to look towards the Chief Sovereign of Death with surprise and joy in his eyes. Linley's eyes were blazing. The Sovereign called out to me, can it be that she changed her mind? Why would the Sovereign change her mind? But then again, the Sovereign was once an ordinary person. Perhaps she might really change her mind. There's still a chance. Linley grew tense. Bibi raised his head to look at the Chief Sovereign of Death as well, both puzzled and expectant. Linley, let me warn you that you do not need to go find the other sovereigns of the Netherworld. You can go directly back to the Infernal Realm. The Chief Sovereign of Death said calmly, but her eyes continued to look with interest at the expression on Linley's face. Why? Linley's heart trembled. He had a bad feeling. When ordinary people die, their souls will enter the Netherworld and form into an undead. This is part of the natural laws. While control over the management of this law was transformed into a treasure, the supreme treasure of my Netherworld, the Netherworld heart. If one wishes to find out which undead your father and friends transformed into, this Netherworld heart must be used. And this Netherworld heart is under my control. The Chief Sovereign of Death said coldly. Linley couldn't help but stare at the Chief Sovereign of Death. Netherworld heart? So it was the Netherworld heart which controlled everything. This supreme treasure was under the control of the Chief Sovereign of Death. This was indeed reasonable. The Chief Sovereign of Death stared down towards Linley, her lips curving upwards slightly. I told you. As punishment, I will not save your father and your friends. Thus, forget about saving them. Even if you go beg other Netherworld sovereigns, I will not permit them to use the Netherworld heart. I imagine, they wouldn't have the gall to disobey me. And you aren't qualified to make them wish to disobey me. Thus, you can go straight back to the Infernal Realm. The Chief Sovereign of Death said calmly. Bang. Linley felt as though an explosion had gone off inside his brain. Netherworld heart. Father. Boss Yale. George. All sorts of things chaotically jumbled together within his mind. Linley's mind had completely lost all logical thought. He was completely stunned. It seemed a long time passed. Linley felt as though he were in a dream, as though his mind was in a stupor. And suddenly, he awoke. No. Linley suddenly raised his head, staring at the Chief Sovereign of Death. Sovereign, you cannot do this, you cannot do this. Sovereign, if you aren't willing to save them, I, Linley, won't say a single word of complaint. But you cannot stop the other sovereigns. You cannot. You cannot. Linley had already sunk into despair. Faced with the Chief Sovereign of Death, he was completely unable to resist her power or to require her to do anything. All he could do was speak powerlessly. In his despair, he even forgot to speak with respect. If he were clear-minded, he would never have erred in such a way. Bibi stared at the chief sovereign of death as well, his eyes also filled with disbelief. "This is your punishment," the chief sovereign of death said calmly. "Sovereign." Bibi suddenly strode forward. Impudence. There were two maids standing at the two ends of the upraised dais of the palace. One of them barked coldly, "Stand back." Bibi stood there, his head raised as he stared at the chief sovereign of death. "Sovereign, you are an invincible chief sovereign." "Right, I did kill a spirit snake. As to whether or not that was Tina, I have no idea." Bibi held his head up high. "Sovereign, you arranged for people to test us. How was I supposed to know it was just a test? She was trying to kill me. Was I not allowed to fight back?" Bang! Bibi suddenly fell to his knees, but his head was held high as he stared at the chief sovereign of death. "I don't believe that I was wrong. If the chief sovereign of death feels I was wrong, then punish me. Just punish me directly, and not my boss. It was I who killed the spirit snake. I did the deed, and I will accept the punishment for it. Don't get my boss involved. Come, if you want to kill me, then kill me." Bibi, head held high, stared straight at the sovereign with an unruly, untamed look. Linley, hearing this, was stunned. Arthurs and Bailey, at the front of the palace, stared at Bibi in amazement. Even the golden snake and the silver serpent, that husband and wife couple, were rather stunned. "Excellent." The chief sovereign of death looked downwards calmly at Bibi. Bang! A terrifying presence swept out, and with a whap sound, Bibi was crushed downwards, smashing into the floor of the palace. However, Bibi still pressed his fists against the ground, forcing his waist straight. He continued to hold his head high as he stared at the chief sovereign of death. Swish! Linley suddenly moved in front of Bibi. He raised his head high, staring at the chief sovereign of death. "Chief sovereign, it was I who ordered Bibi to kill that spirit snake. At that time, we wanted to acquire the abyssal fruit. But that abyssal snake was preventing us, so I ordered Bibi to kill him, while I would seize the chance to acquire the abyssal fruit. Bibi was just obeying my orders." "Bibi!" Linley mentally shouted at him, "Are you insane? Once you die, you won't even have a divine clone left behind. You'll truly be dead. What will Nini do? What will your daughter, Ina, do? And Beirut will be heartbroken as well." "Boss." Bibi looked at Linley. "Shut your mouth. Don't say a thing." Linley shouted mentally. Bibi stuttered, but in the end, maintained his silence. Linley raised his head to look at the chief sovereign of death, seated high above him. That invincible aura was indeed enough to inspire dread. Linley stared at the chief sovereign of death. "Sovereign, punishment is punishment, reward is reward. How can they cancel each other out? I am willing to take my punishment. I only ask you, Sovereign, to save my father and brothers. Even if you want to kill me, I won't say a single word of complaint. Kill Linley." Bibi suddenly turned, staring at Linley, who was standing there with his back ramrod straight. "What?" Arthurs and Bailey stared in disbelief. As for the colossal golden snake and the silver serpent, they and their 9 children all stared in Linley in amazement. "Boss, what are you doing?" Bibi shouted back frantically. "Bibi, if I'm killed, I'll still have my divine fire clone back at the Yulan continent. Although I won't be able to become a supreme expert by relying on my divine fire clone, for the sake of my father and my brothers, so what if I'm not able to be a supreme expert?" Linley sent mentally. "But if my father and brothers end up having their souls dispersed and destroyed in the Netherworld, even if I become an expert on Beirut's level, I will never be at peace and regret it my entire life. Grandpa Douring once, for my sake, allowed his soul to be dispersed. My brothers, my father, they still have hope. I can't give them up just for the sake of becoming a supreme expert. Bibi was stunned. If I can let my family and friends all be alive and well, even if I give up glory and power, so what? Linley raised his head, looking towards the chief sovereign of death. Reward is reward, punishment is punishment. The chief sovereign of death repeated these words, and then stared downwards at Linley. Linley, your future is limitless. Are you willing to give up your future potential for the sake of those weak little undead? The chief sovereign of death's words caused Linley's body to tremble. Clearly. The chief sovereign of death also knew that Linley had a divine clone in another plane. I am willing. Linley held his head high. Sometimes, a person should maintain his pursuits. Sometimes, a person had to give them up. Today, giving up his pursuits might mean he would never become a supreme expert. However, he would have his family and have his lifelong friends. This was enough to satisfy Linley. After all, it was hard to achieve perfection in everything. The chief sovereign of death stared at Linley, then said calmly, "You are willing to give it up, but I'm not going to agree." Linley, who had already prepared himself, was stunned. You feel that rewards and punishments cannot cancel each other out, but, as far as I'm concerned, they should. This is a rule which I have set. What you need to do is to obey my rules. The chief sovereign of death laughed coldly as she stared down towards Linley, as though she were looking at a maddened ant. Bibi suddenly rose to his feet. Sovereign. Linley stretched his hand out to stop him while shouting mentally, Bibi. Bibi's face was purple. He turned to stare at Linley. The result of offending a sovereign is to die for nothing. Understood? Linley sent mentally. Linley raised his head, looking at the sovereign. He said, one word and sentence at a time, Sovereign, really, is there really no hope at all? When Linley thought of the grief his father had lived in for so many years, and how he had died without even successfully avenging Linley's mother, and how Boss Yale had collapsed to the point of begging for Reynolds to kill him, Linley felt heartsick when he thought of his father and friends. Boss. Bibi looked at Linley, sensing his grief. Sovereign. Suddenly, the nearby Arthurs spoke out. Sovereign, aren't the planar wars starting soon? Didn't you say that if a commander is killed, why not just change that a bit? Oh. The chief sovereign of death actually let out a rare laugh. Arthurs, you really are clever. I nearly forgot. And then, she turned to stare at Linley and Bibi. Linley, I have wonderful news for you. You wish to save your father and friends, yes. There is hope. There is still a little bit of hope. Linley and Bibi both immediately raised their heads to stare at the chief sovereign of death up above. Hope. Linley felt a blaze of eagerness in his heart. The chief sovereign of death said, 7 divine planes, 4 higher realms. Between them, there is an extremely rowdy event that will occur every trillion years. The planar wars. Linley's heart trembled. Planar wars. He had heard of them long ago, but all he knew was that the battle between 2 planes was extremely fierce. A war which resulted in an extremely high number of experts falling. And now, the Divine Darkness plane and the Divine Light plane are currently undergoing a planar wars battle. The Divine Darkness plane belongs to my Netherworld side. The Netherworld's Lords of Tartarus are qualified to participate. To encourage them, the rules of the planar wars state, that if they are able to kill 10 enemy commanders, they would be able to make a request of a sovereign of their side. You could ask the sovereign to make a sovereign artifact for you, attack, material defense, spiritual defense, you can choose for yourself what you want. The sovereign will definitely accomplish it for you. But of course, you can make an earlier request. The chief sovereign of death said. You can now go assist the Divine Darkness plane's side. If you kill a commander, I will help you find one of your family or friends and allow them to regain their memories. If you kill 2, I will help you save 2. If you want to save many people, work hard to kill the enemy commanders. Linley's eyes instantly lit up. Done. Linley hurriedly said. Don't be impatient. I forgot to warn you, in the planar wars, commander-level experts are all at the Lords of Tartaru's level, which is what the Infernal Realm calls purgatory commanders. The chief sovereign of death said calmly. The weakest amongst them should be comparable to you, while the strongest, are Highgod paragons. Linley's facial expression instantly froze. They were all purgatory commander-level experts. Those who were commanders, were the likes of Ricegem, or the castle lord of Malogo Island, Mosi. For Linley to kill experts like them. In the planar wars, commander is a position of high rank. Naturally, they consist of the supreme experts of the various planes. The chief sovereign of death said slowly. If you wish to become a commander, the prerequisite is that you are a lord of Tartarus, or a lord prefect of a prefecture. Only by doing so are you qualified to enter. You can imagine what level of strength is needed. If you go kill them, but end up meeting someone who is stronger, you'll be finished. Linley felt as though a massive boulder was crushing down upon his chest, making it hard to breathe. He wanted to go fight. But, did he have the ability to? Those weren't mere 7-star fiends, they were purgatory commanders, lords of Tartarus, the most supreme of experts, and they included amongst them invincible figures comparable to Beirut and Dunnington. To kill them? The chief sovereign of death stared down at Linley. This is the hope which I spoke of. Originally, killing an enemy commander came with a reward. But you can use it to instead save your loved ones. For each commander you kill, I will save one of your loved ones. Bibi stared angrily at the sovereign. This was too unfair. Killing a commander was a tremendous merit, but the chief sovereign of death would only save a single person? However, if Linley wished to save his loved ones, this was the only path. There were no other options. If you are afraid, you can leave now. The chief sovereign of death said calmly. I accept. Linley raised his head, staring up at the chief sovereign of death. Even if he had to climb up a mountain of knives or descend into a sea of flames, Linley would make the attempt.